24-hour newsroom. The school police chief in Uvalde, Texas, has resigned from the city council. Pete Arredondo has faced strong criticism over his handling of the shooting at Robb Elementary School. He was sworn into the position just a few weeks ago. The price of fireworks has gone up.
Prior to 2020, it would cost us between $12,000 and $15,000 to ship a container.
Thank you. No surprise. Security.
The American Pyrotechnics Association says costs are up 35%. A recent report from the trade association points to shipping rates, raw materials, and labor costs forcing consumers to pay more. About 95% of consumer fireworks come from China, and the price of import products has more than quadrupled over the last 3 years. Governor Newsom has signed a new state law ending arrests for loitering for prostitution. The issue divided sex workers and advocates during a rare 9-month delay since state lawmakers passed a bill last year. Newsom noted the bill doesn't legalize prostitution. It revokes provisions he says led to disproportionate harassment of women and transgender adults. The measure also will allow those who were previously convicted to ask the court to seal the record of conviction. Some law enforcement groups say the repeal will make it harder to confront those who commit crimes related to prostitution and human trafficking and to help those being victimized. Mark Ron, KFI News. A man from Brooklyn has been arrested for stalking and threatening Taylor Swift. Police say the guy had gone to her building in New York City on 2 separate occasions. TMZ says the 32-year-old man threatened to harm her over an intercom if she wouldn't be with him. He's the latest in a series of stalkers who's been arrested for getting too close to her.
No surprise.
Russian forces have been pounding a city in eastern Ukraine in what officials say is an attempt to seize the last stronghold of resistance in eastern Ukraine's Luhansk province. The regional governor says Russians opened fire with just about every available weapon it has in the last day. An advisor says the fate of the city will be decided within the next 2 days. Ukrainian fighters have spent weeks trying to defend the city of people from falling to Russia, as a neighboring city did a week ago. The Luhansk and Donetsk provinces make up the Donbass region, where Russia has been focusing its offensive since the start. SoCal weather is clouds and fog by the coast and sunny. Beaches, mid-70s to low 80s in Metro LA and OC. Mid-70s to mid-80s in the Inland Valleys and mid to upper 80s in the Inland Empire. Temperature is going to drop a degree or 2 for the Independence Day holiday. Right now it's 63 degrees in Sherman Oaks, 63 in Culver City, 65 in Brea, and 66 in Irvine. We local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Brian Bruman.
Checking KFI traffic, we do a crash in the Commerce area, 5 southbound in Atlantic Boulevard. That's blocking the right lane. Traffic is backed up to Eastern Avenue. New Buena Park on the 91 east side of Knott Avenue. A crash there has all lanes blocked. Traffic is backed up to Valley View. Empty Steel Beach work zone on the 405 south between Steel Beach Boulevard and the 22. The right lane taken away there. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Jonathan White.
The Pod Meets World podcast takes you back in time to 1993 for the ultimate Boy Meets World rewatch. Join original cast members Danielle Fishel, Will Friedle, and Ryder Strong as they relive every episode, sharing memories, behind-the-scenes info, and more.
None of us have seen an episode since it aired back in the 90s, so we'll be witnessing our middle part haircuts, hooded t-shirts, and teenage overacting for basically the first time right along with you.
Listen to Pod Meets World on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
KFI AM 640.
That's the only thing I ever win, is guessing at the spread. If I would have bet it, I'm lost. You know, they say at the racetrack, when Conway has money on a horse, the flag is up, you lose.
The Tim Conway Jr. Show.
Weeknights at 6
On KFI.
Do you get excited to go to Walmart or Target or Costco? I ask like on a Saturday or a Sunday. I'll say to my wife and my daughter, I'm like, hey, you guys want to go to Walmart? And if they both say yes, I'm like on cloud 9, man. I can't wait to get there, see what's on the shelf.
The Tim Conway Jr. Show. Weeknights at 6 on KFI.
Here's what I'm going to suggest. Your grandmother threw her out on the street. She doesn't know what the hell's going on anyway.
And take that room and adopt a dog or a cat that really needs it.
Does that work?
Well, I'm not going to kick Granny out on the street. I'm just going to say adopt Granny a cat.
Bill Handel.
There you are.
Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
Right here on KFI. I'm here. I love you. I know you do.
I know you love yourself.
No.
As I've always said, there's 2 kinds of people in this world. People who have zero or very low self-esteem and liars.
Bill Handel.
And that's it.
Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
Where are they going to plant all these trees? Well, where there isn't shade. In fact, it says some parts of the city are shade deprived. This is what they do with their time.
John and Ken.
Garcetti and his administration is brain deprived.
Weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
If I awoke to find a man dressed like a pirate in my house while holding a small dog, I think that'd be pretty damn cool. Who doesn't like pirates?
I don't know a nap is not a great idea.
Surprise!
Jerry and Shannon, weekdays at 10 a.m. on KFI.
This is a terrible story from Minnesota, and it involves a truck driver. His name is Tate R. Doom.
Tate Doom?
Just like D-O-M, Doom.
You know, I think names are destiny.
People with weird names have weird lives.
You don't have a weird name?
Well, look at me. Am I normal?
No. John and Ken, weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
Let's move over to the wars of the future.
All right, the
Post-apocalyptic, they post, after the place falls apart.
Bill Handel.
I'll get there. I get paid to do this.
Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
KFI, AM 640.
From coast to coast and worldwide on the internet, this is Coast to Coast AM. Now, here's your guest host, Richard Serrett.
Further proof. Brian Wilson, one of the greatest composers the latter half of the 20th century. The Beach Boys, wouldn't it be nice? A different sort of hammer has fallen on a century-old vampire fighting kit, complete with holy water bottle and wooden stake after it was auctioned. The bizarre box of paranormal paraphernalia, including candlesticks, crucifixes, and pistols, was once owned by British peer Lord Haley. It sold for £13,000 at a Derbyshire auction, 5 times its guide price. It's unclear how seriously Lord Haley took the threat of vampires, or if the kit was ever used. You can read more about the mystery surrounding the aristocrat's vampire hunting kit in the news section of at coasttocoastam.com. ParanormalDate.com helps you find your perfect match that shares an interest in the paranormal, UFOs, life after death, and more. You can browse their profiles and pictures and meet someone out of this world tonight. So, if you're sick of being single, if you're fed up waking up alone on a Sunday morning, well, you've come to the right place. Paranormal Date has thousands of members just like you who are looking for fun, friendship, romance, and that special long-term relationship. It's completely free to join. It costs nothing to send a link, so you can start contacting the people you fancy straight away and search by location to find other singles
Hyundai
in your
Sonata
area.
Hybrid.
Check it out. ParanormalDate.com.
Unite your
Remember,
senses.
you are not alone. All right, back to more of my conversation with U.S. Attorney John O'Connor as we discuss the 50th anniversary of Watergate right after these on Coast to Coast AM.
Treat yourself to a test
Here
drive
at
in
Coast
the
to Coast, we believe
2011
the home should be the
Hyundai
safest place
Sonata.
on earth for every family. And that's why I use and recommend Simply Safe. Simply Safe is advanced home security that puts you, your home, and your family's safety first. Simply Safe offers comprehensive protection not only against intruders and burglary, but
Treat
against
yourself to a
expensive home
test drive.
hazards from flooding to fires. With 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe's agents take action the moment a threat is detected, dispatching police or first responders in an emergency even if you're not at home. Simply Safe uses proprietary video verification technology so that monitoring agents can visually confirm the threat in order to get high-priority 911 dispatch. Monitoring plans are affordably priced at $1 a day with no long-term contracts or hidden fees. You can customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafenori.com. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off with interactive monitoring. Go to simplysafenori.com.
Hyundai blends luxury and performance in a value-oriented package with the 2009 Sonata, an attractive sedan proving its credentials among competing mid-size four-doors.
It's an all-in-one
The Sonata's front
car
fascia has
with a
been
built-in
restyled
power
this
fender,
year, highlighted by large projector lens headlights
email
and a
protection,
deeper
and more.
Autonomy,
All for free.
exceptional safety
Download
equipment,
the
and
app today and get the
remarkable
most
luxury-oriented
comprehensive power
value.
protection with the push of a button. Sport Trac Go. Privacy simplified.
Giving it your all on the court? Make sure you have the right partner by your side. Highland's Leg Cramp Quick Dissolve Tablet. America's #1 leg cramp relief solution for over 10 years. No water needed, no stomach upset, just fast, effective relief. Also available in tablets. Highland's Leg Cramp. The healthy competition and beyond. Available at Walmart, Walgreens, and CVS. Claims based on traditional homeopathic practice, not accepted medical evidence, not FDA evaluated.
Step into the 2014 Hyundai Sonata.
Welcome back to Coast to Coast AM, which is Derek, coming to you live from my home studio in Old Thorn
Hyundai
Hill
outfitted
Village,
the 2014
just north of
Sonata with a
Toronto.
standard 2.4
And
liter
you can
gas.
say hello on Twitter at Richard Serrick, the website strangeplanet.ca. If you want a great primer to begin to understand Watergate, and we're marking the 50th anniversary of the Watergate break-in that led to the resignation of President Nixon, if you want to sort of get into this arena, you could start with All the President's Men, multi-Academy Award-winning film from 1976 with Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford and Al Holbrook as Heathrow, Jason Robards and Bradley, of course, of the Washington Post. There's a new series. It's 7 episodes. You can screen it on Amazon Prime. It's called Gasway. With Julia
Incredible
Roberts
fuel efficiency and
as
sleek
Martin
styling
Mitchell,
combined in the
John
2014
Penn,
Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
absolutely
The Sonata
unrecognizable
Hybrid
as
features
the
a
former
gasoline engine
Attorney
combined with an
General
electric
and
motor
Richard
and a
Nixon's
next generation.
campaign chair, John Mitchell. Dan Stevens, you might recognize from Downton Abbey. He plays John Dean. We'll talk a little bit more about John Dean. And I think the real star of the show is Shea Wiggum as Jude Gordon Liddy. And his
Climb inside the
performance is
2015
at times
Hyundai Sonata
hilarious and
Hybrid.
then at times terrifying.
Simply
So
a
that leads
great
us back
car.
into this discussion
The
of Jude
2015
Gordon Liddy.
Sonata
John
Hybrid
O'Connor
raises
is
the
with us,
bar with next
Heathrow
generation hybrid
lawyer,
technology with a
attorney,
lithium
and
polymer battery that
the
comes with
author
its
of
own
The
lifetime
Mysteries of
hybrid
Watergate,
battery
What
warranty.
Really Happened. So we were talking about Jude Gordon Liddy earlier,
Inside
John,
mirrors, speed sensing
and
wipers, and
he
solar
was
control windows
recruited
to
by
block UV rays
John
are some
Dean
of the
to
classy
join the
features you'll find
council or the
alongside
committee
the
to re-elect the
Sonata's
president,
efficient and modern hybrid.
and he puts on this presentation something about Project Gemstone. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, Liddy, of course, in consultation with Howard Hunt, who I talked before, had infiltrated the White House. So, and of course, Dean. And he put together $1 million intelligence program. He was led by Dean to believe that, gosh, this is exactly what John Mitchell wanted. He wanted this huge intelligence program at the CRP. Well, Mitchell didn't, but in Liddy's first presentation, he had these professional charts made up by the CIA called the Gemstone program. And each different set of operations was named after a gemstone. For instance, there was Project Ruby. Project Opal was, by the way, the breaking and entering and wiretapping. Project Sapphire.
Discerning drivers will appreciate the 2014
thing named after
Toyota
a
Avalon
gemstone.
Hybrid.
One of the
The
things he
safety you
suggested,
need
for
and the
example,
features you
was kidnapping demonstrators at the convention that was going to happen that summer, the Republican convention, and spiriting and kidnapping them out of the country and keeping them there until the convention was over. Now, that's kind of a little bit silly, but he proposed that. He proposed having a houseboat in Miami where they would bring Democratic delegates to consort with beautiful prostitutes and listen to them. All sorts of things. Many of the operations within there were named charmingly after things that Adolf Hitler had done. Liddy was a big admirer of German, all things Teutonic, and there's something night and nebble, a fog and shadows or whatever it is. And he had all kinds of weird things resonant of Hitler. but it was a wild thing. He had a chase point idea that he would wiretap Democrats' planes by having a chase plane follow it close enough to wiretap it. So that's the sort of thing he did in the first meeting. John Mitchell was known as a stone face, and he was. He's just a guy who never changed expression. And if you have the combination of a stone-faced guy and a clueless madman like Liddy, who didn't understand that Mitchell was actually horrified, Mitchell puffed on his pipe and said, I just think this might be a little too expensive. Liddy started talking about organized crime, and Mitchell said, let's contribute as little as we need to, Gordon, about organized crime. And by the way, Gordon, will you burn those charts, please? So it was Mitchell's way of putting down Liddy, but Liddy didn't know that. So he came back again the next week with a $500,000 plan. And it was so obvious to people in the room that Mitchell wasn't buying it. The dean called a halt to the presentation, and they walked out. Liddy was just still mystified. And what Dean told him was, you got to do this again. You got to scale it down. Mitchell wasn't buying the price tag. It was probably Dean had given him the idea that there was all kinds of money, $500,000 for openers, he said, leading Liddy to believe he had $1 million. And of course, Mitchell had no intent of doing that. Dean thought he could push it through somehow, and Dean wanted his own intelligence operation. In Dean's own memoir, he admits blind ambition.
Updated externally and simplified to just base
The
and
blind
limited
ambition was
trims.
his
The 2000
memoir in which he talked about the way up in the White House was to have your own Oppo Dirt file. So he wanted Oppo Dirt. He just didn't have to be with the campaign. He was just looking for Oppo Dirt in general on anything Democrat. And using this opportunity as his striving way of getting up on the totem pole in the White House. And that's what Dean cared about. He wanted to be a big shot. So he
if Mitchell was horrified by G. Gordon Liddy's, proposed bag of dirty tricks off the Gemstone project, and was being stone-faced about it, but was, trying to make it clear, we're not doing this, I'm not interested. How did it get approved as part of this program, which was the break-in at the Watergate complex?
Well, funny story. Jeb Magruder, who was a real spineless weakling, who was Mitchell's assistant, kept bugging Liddy and Dean to be able to sample the prostitutes' wares. He kept saying, bring the prostitutes up to Washington, D.C., and let's sample them. And, of course, as do that. But nonetheless, that was the incentive that Magruder had. But as time went on, Magruder realized that as long as whatever was done was within a budget allocation, you didn't need to have Smother May I for every expenditure for pencils or for advertising or for whatever it was. So he knew that. So what Magruder cleverly did was he put on the end of an agenda now. 7 weeks later, he waited 7 weeks, and then he put a little item at the end of a 2-day agenda, which they never really ended up deciding anything on Liddy's plan. But at least Magruder could say that he had put it on the agenda. He told other people Mitchell approved. He didn't approve. But it was Magruder's way of really sort of going ahead with the project and telling everybody he did have approval. He didn't have approval. But now he could spend his $250,000 any way he wanted. Now, I think, it appears as though Dean really wanted this for the purpose of listening in naughty boys talking to naughty girls. He had, in the fall of '71, he'd already dispatched the White House detective to New York to look for, to see if Democrats were using the Happy Hooker call girl, and very notorious at the time, and the Happy Hooker had written a book about it, and everybody knew about the Happy Hooker. Well, he thought he could embarrass Democrats, so he had his detective get the trick book. But unfortunately, there were an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, which made it tough for Dean to use that. Then later on that call, he had learned that the Democrats had a deal at the DNC where they were referring out-of-town people to the call girl ring, or the call girl operation down the street from the Watergate. He learned of that, and then he had the same detective go case the DNC in the fall of 1971. So Dean was very interested. No one else knew about this, but Dean was very interested in getting Oppo dirt of boys talking to girls. And that's one of the reasons he wanted, in my reconstruction of things, that's the reason he wanted Liddy to come over and do his thing, because he wanted to grab this file of dirt. He knew about this call girl operation. So that's really what motivated the whole thing. Liddy was very surprised when he was told by Dean, and well, actually was probably told by Magruder, that they were going into the Watergate, and that was going to be their first project. And Liddy said, why did we do that? It's since started, it makes no sense. He wanted to do something that was going to get campaign information. Now he's being told he wants a Watergate. Well, now what happens is they go in and they wiretap somebody. This is 2 weeks before the burglary arrest. They actually had done a burglary before then. For those 2 weeks, they were listening to, guess what? Boys talking to girls. Okay, lining up these assignations. And they weren't listening to Larry O'Brien. They had wiretapped a minor official, not even with the DNC, but with an adjunct group, who was always out of town, and they used his phone to set up dates with these out-of-towners who come in, use the suite of offices and call the girls and arrange them. So that's what they were listening to. And anything else is nonsense. And they never really explained it well later on as to why they were listening to those the girls and boys. And it really never got very much publicity. And the story that Liddy was told was, well, the bug we were trying to put on Larry O'Brien, it just didn't work. It was shielded by concrete steel. We just didn't get a signal. And we put a tap on some other line there just for the fun of it. And then they were listening to this stuff that Liddy was very disappointed in, because all it was boys talking to girls. And so,
well, when you say boys talking to girls, again, just to be clear, we're talking about a call girl ring, and they were doing the referrals from inside the DNC headquarters at the Watergate. So John Dean was hoping to catch some Democratic politician, maybe a congressman or a senator, and for blackmail purposes. Listen, we have you on tape, cavorting with a call girl. Is that the idea?
Well, that's the idea of the first burglary. They were listening for 2 weeks. The idea was he would at least have a file, and he would then proudly show it to the higher-ups and say, look, I've got Democrat X on the line here, talking to so-and-so, and we know that he's cavorting with these prostitutes. What would happen is an out-of-town guy would come to all Democratic bigwigs around the country, and what would happen is if they wanted a good time, this one secretary would refer them to the phone. She would show them the pictures of the girls. There would be a girl call back after the guy made the initial call. The girl would call back, and the secretary showed the guy the picture of the girl he was talking to. They'd line up their date. Now, the second break-in was not to get intelligence on the other guys, but to find out what happened, what intelligence they had, the other side, the Democrats, had on them. Dean got very alarmed by an article in the Star News on June 9th, 1972, in which a lawyer got arrested for some Mann Act violations for bringing girls across state lines for immoral purposes. And they talked about a call girl ring. It was not really in the indictment. The article talked about there was a call girl ring involving one lawyer at the White House, unquote. And Dean furiously called up the prosecutor, demanded that he bring all the evidence over that after, and he went through it. And this was a call girl ring that Dean was familiar with. He knew the madam, let's put it that way. And she was, I have a picture of her at the wedding of Maureen and John Dean. So she was a friend, the madam was a friend of John's fiancée. And so he was afraid, I think. Now I'm getting into a little bit of inference, maybe conjecture, but more inference because it's pretty solid, that I think he was mainly worried about what do they have on me, or what do they have on us. Maybe he's really was worried about somebody else. I think he's worried about himself. But when he was told to go in the second time, Magruder slammed his hand on the part of the desk where the Republicans keep their office on the other side, and he said, "We want what they have here." Libby thought they were looking for stuff that Larry O'Brien had on. But when the burglars got in there, guess where they were going, Richard? They were going to the desk of the secretary that had the pictures. You see what I mean?
Right. So let me see if I understand this. So John Dean has his own agenda. He wants to go in there and find out, perhaps, do the Dems have any information relating to me and this call girl ring? G. Gordon Liddy thinks he's going in there to get opposition research for the committee to re-elect President Nixon. The question then is, James McCord, CIA, E. Howard Hunt, CIA, why are they going in there?
Well, they don't want to go in the second time. They went in the first time just to do what I was talking about in the Ellsberg situation. The CIA had a massive call girl operation, call girl wiretapping operation, drugging. It was really an extortion deal. They were calling it research, but it was illegal.
Like a honey pot.
The first time,
Honey trap.
Honey traps, yeah. They have honey traps around the country. But by going in and getting the approval, presumably, of the White House, they could then say this is legal. This was an operation, yes. So 10 years later, the Senate finally caught him, or the Congress caught him, they could say, oh my gosh, the White House approved it. What do you mean? This isn't illegal. Because the CIA was forbidden from doing anything in the United States. Now, the presidential authorization was an exception. So their purpose was solved after the first break. That's why they wanted it so much. And I explained it in the book. I go through a lot of drama in there, some really interesting stuff. And so forth. We don't have enough time for it. But the fact is that they wanted to cleanse themselves, to give themselves a get out of jail card free, and that was accomplished with the first wiretaps. And they could prove that it had been financed by the White House, and that was again a get out of jail card free, and that Gordon Liddy was involved, and presumably John Dean and John Mitchell. So it looked like there's presidential authorization for it. Now, what happened was the second time, Dean wanted to go in to find out. Not originally, it was to find out dirt on the other side. Now, Dean wants to find out what dirt they have on us. Howard Hunt, a CIA infiltrator, a CIA agent, posing as a White House consultant, objects to it. He thinks this is stupid. It's not worth the risk. And it wasn't for the CIA's purpose, because the second break-in did nothing for the CIA but imposed risks. Because to complicate the matter, the reason the CIA liked this operation was they were already wiretapping the same call girl ring. They were already wiretapping it, but the call girls were cooperating with the CIA. And that's why, if they could establish that they were that the president had authorized them to tap this call girl ring, and it was a CIA call girl, CIA-controlled operation, then they would be freed up. Now the
problem. All right, sorry, John, I got to jump in again. We've got a break here at the bottom of the hour. We'll come back, open up the phone lines, questions, comments. John O'Connor, Deep Throat's lawyer. We'll talk about Deep Throat as well when we come back. Here's Eric Hall and Dinah Clay taking us into the break on Coast to Coast AM.
This is 24-hour newsroom. The gas tax in California has The tax increased about 3 cents per gallon Friday.
I commute total every day, so I feel all of the increases.
Drivers in California are already paying the highest prices in the nation for gas. Lawmakers are planning to send out relief payments this fall to help with the high gas prices. Los Angeles County's health director has urged people to take precautions against the spread of COVID-19 over the 4th of July weekend. Barbara Ferrer says the number of COVID cases and hospitalizations are on the rise, and people need to protect themselves, their family, and their community. If the case rates in the county continue to rise, Ferrer says indoor mask mandates could be reinstated by the end of July. SoCal weather from KFI, low clouds and fog by the coast and sunny, mid-60s to low 70s at the beaches, 670s to low 80s in metro LA and OC, 670s to mid-80s in the inland valleys, and mid to upper 80s in the inland empire.